You're listening to Lighthouse Conversations, brought to you by Lighthouse Haven, a spiritual home for your awakening soul. Lighthouse Conversations is a show where awakening souls gather to be inspired, connected, and enlightened. Spiritual spark plug and host Chelly Canales, that's me, will guide you through the twists and turns of your journey to a safe haven where you are finally free to live your best light. Each episode contains a conversation with a guest who has gone through a spiritual awakening, detailing their unique and life-changing experiences in an intimate and candid way. Although everyone's experience is as unique as they are, we all share one common thread. We're all seeking something. So, come join us on this journey and be prepared to leave with resources that will supercharge you into inspired action. Here's today's episode. Well, hello, awakening souls. How are you doing? I see that more and more we're starting to come out of this isolation bit by bit, hopefully as safely as possible. And as we do start to come out of it, it gives us a chance to reflect on what we've been through the past couple of months. For some people, it was spending a lot more time with their loved ones in a closed environment, their partners, their children, maybe even their parents. And for some of us, it was more time spent alone, those of us who do not have a partner or who do not have kids. So what did that bring to the surface for you, if that was you? For some people, it brought up a lot of feelings of feeling inadequate or unhappy or realizing why, or not understanding why they're not partnered right now. And for others, they've seen it as an opportunity to fully step into themselves and truly shine and to find that self-love deep within them. Leslie Kaz is the author of Girl Bliss, and she has learned over the years that happiness doesn't just come when you find that perfect person. Happiness is in being that person. Not perfect, of course, but that person that you look in the mirror at every day and say, yes, I love you. I'm so happy I get to spend every day with you. So I'm excited for you to hear about her wisdom and her experience through all of this. Everyone, this is Leslie Kaz. And welcome to the show, Leslie. How are you?
I'm great, Chelly. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. I love that in these COVID times, we're able to still connect with people, look at each other in the face, and be able to have a great conversation. So I really appreciate you being here. I want to hear, how are you doing through all of this? It's obviously a very unique time that we're living in, and there's a lot of challenges that come with it mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and there's also room for opportunity. So what has it been like for you?
It's been a serious opportunity. I have to say, I've been doing really wonderfully with it. I am single and I live alone. And I think the word on the street is kind of that single people are really struggling right now. And there's all these kind of depression hotlines and things
Right.
like that popping up on TV. And a lot of it is geared toward people who live alone because I think people think, oh these poor people and they can't interact with anybody and they don't have anybody around. But for some of us, it really hasn't been that big of a difference. I mean, I work from home. And so not going to an office every day is nothing new for me. It's what I do anyway. And I really, I guess, about a week in, when I kind of realized, okay, this is going to go for a while, this isn't just going to be for a couple of weeks and then we're going to be back to normal. I kind of said, okay, I have all this time now. How can I use this to my advantage? And I really started doubling down on my work efforts and getting to some of those things that you never get to because you're so busy doing all the normal day to day stuff. A lot of learning so a lot of education, which has been really great. And yeah, it's just been super positive for me. And so, I was actually kind of scared to put that out there in the beginning because I thought oh, everybody else is hating this and everything's horrible. And I'm here going, this is great. But the more I put it out there, the more other people chimed in and said, you know what, I think it's great too. I don't want it to end.
Uh, well, I'm glad
So,
you can find that silver lining because,
yeah.
it is tough to not have that interaction as much, but the gifts in that are very rich as
Hmm.
well. That's wonderful. Have you been able to connect more with the people that you work with in your business? Are you seeing a change in them as much, or are you seeing people like really gravitate toward you as like the light, as a support that can help them get through what they're going through?
Most definitely. And I've actually been doing some Instagram lives on Friday evenings with a psychologist from the Chicago area. And we have had really great attendance. It's mostly single women, although there are, a few men and a few married women also. But um, everybody says, it's the thing they look forward to all week long. And it's kind of like this girls' night in happy hour sort of thing. And we've just been having a blast with it. So yeah, I think people have, and I think my responses on Instagram to things I'm posting and things like that have gotten a lot more. And I think it's just because people are really trying to connect and they're kind of needing that help right now.
Well, it's wonderful that you get to show up fully and be the light for people because I know that there are a lot of folks out there struggling. So,
Hmm.
we all play our different role during times like these and right now you're being called to step up and shine and you've got the capacity to do it in such a beautiful way right now. So that's wonderful.
I'm really glad you said that because I think there's something to that. Because in the beginning weeks when I was, feeling so great about everything, and I thought, okay, something's wrong with me because everybody else is struggling, and why am I so happy? And of course I wasn't happy. I was missing, my social things and whatever, but really, wasn't hurting in any way. And now that you said that, it makes me think maybe I was supposed to be happy and I was supposed to be doing well with all of this because other people who weren't needed me to be that way.
Ooh, okay, that's good. This is really, I'm really connecting with the energy of this, and I'm loving this. And I want to actually take it back a little further before you got to this point where you could be here now. Take me through your spiritual awakening journey because we'll get more into your book, Single Girl Bliss. I want to know. I mean, I loved it, and it really
Oh,
resonated with
thank
me, and I
you.
know a lot of people could really use that message. It took you, on your journey to kind of get to this point where you can be where you are. Can you kind of take me back and walk me through what that looked like?
Yeah, you bet. So, after 21 years of, kind of being on the dating and relationship hamster wheel and, getting into these relationships and thinking this was the one and everything was going to work out and it was going to be so great, and then having it all come to a screeching halt, I really found myself in a position where I was kind of like, what am I doing? I keep trying this over and over. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and expecting something different.
Right.
And I finally went, okay, I need to do something different here. And you would think that's where the whole, single girl bliss thing started, but it really didn't, because I kind of said to myself, okay, enough messing around. I need to find the one. And I need to
Hmm.
do something that's going to lead me to the one, because that's the only thing that's going to make me happy. And all of this other stuff that I've been doing in these relationships I've been participating in have not been making me happy. So I got to find the one. So how am I going to do this? Well, I was talking to a friend of mine and she gave me this book that was all about, finding the one. Here's how you do this. Here are the things you need to do. And so I read this book, and it was this 7-week program, and you had these exercises that you did every day for 7 weeks, so like a 49-day thing.
Hmm.
And I was dedicated to this. And so every day I did my exercises, and some of them were kind of silly and some of them weren't, but I did the exercises and I thought, I'm going to get to the end of the 7 weeks and I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready
Yeah.
for him to come into my life. And I got to the end of the 7 weeks. And what I realized was that I hadn't been treating myself well. And I hadn't been
Mm.
recognizing all of the good things that were in my life. I had been so focused on what wasn't there. And I was expecting someone to come along and sort of fill that void. And so I decided I was going to take 6 weeks off of, I was going to take myself off the market for 6 weeks or 6 months, sorry. And when I did that, I started recognizing all of the great things about being single, and I started changing my mindset about being single. And I had read a lot of, they're called self-help books, but I like to call them self-development, because self-help sounds so, 1970s or something.
Right.
Although the books, the section in the bookstore is still called self-help, but I had read a lot of those books, kind of in my 20s and 30s, and all of it was about aligning your energy, with the universe, aligning your thoughts and your energy with the universe, so that if your thoughts are negative and your energy is low, then the universe is just going to deliver you more of that. So if your thoughts are positive and your energy is high, then the universe is going to deliver more of that. And so I kind of realized, oh my gosh, I'm living in this state of lack, of scarcity. There's no love. I don't have the right person in my life. And I'm totally focused on that. And so what am I getting in return? Not the right person in my life, not
Mm-hmm.
happiness. And so I thought, okay, I need to start, thinking positively about this. And of course, thinking positively, or I learned, is a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't all of a sudden just change all of your negative thoughts into positive ones and, okay, now everything's great and I'm happy, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it doesn't happen that way. It's, you have to train yourself kind of to do that. And so I started doing that. And I just started thinking positively about being single. And what happened was I got to the end of my, 6 month period of, being off the market. I thought I was going to do all this work on myself. The 6 months was going to be up and I was going to be ready to, hit Tinder and, find the one
Oh
or,
yeah.
whatever. And instead, I got to the end of the 6 months and I went, wow, this being single thing is really great. What have I been wasting my time with all of these years? I had no idea that everything I wanted and needed and everything positive was already here. I was just so focused on the lack and the scarcity that I didn't recognize it. And so, getting my thoughts and energy into alignment brought that then back to me, brought that happiness back to me. And it's been 5 years now, and I've been, thoroughly blissful ever since.
So I love that. It's like a journey inward more than it is like I'm going to find that external thing that's going to come over here and fulfill me. And to
Absolutely.
me, that self awareness is such a part of a spiritual awakening. I think sometimes it takes us looking inside and going like, oh, it's not all those things out there. There's something here that I can look at that ends up making the big changes happen. What took you from okay, so now I'm understanding that this life is really good for me, that I love being with myself, to spreading this message through a book and through talking to other women and getting that message out there. How did you know that it was a calling for you to share this?
Well, it's kind of funny how that happened actually, because at the time I was an interior designer. I had my own interior design business. And I started with this business coach. I started working with a business coach. It was a group coaching program. And I wanted to, take my interior design business to the next level. And so I started working with her, and we got to this point where I needed to identify who my ideal client was for interior design. And so I started working through that, and I realized that my ideal client was a single woman. And so she said, okay, great. Now start telling me who this woman is. What's her name? Where does she live? Does she have children? Blah, blah, blah. And all of these things about her and, what she was looking for, obviously, from an interior designer. And as I was going through this, I realized I don't just want to help this woman design her home, I want to help design her life because it really was about so much more. I mean, the home, of course, that's your sanctuary. And so that's really important. But it was about so much more than that. And this sort of dawned on me, at like it was late at night. Well, for me, like 11 o'clock at night is late, but it was late at night. And
Yeah.
this dawned on me, and I kind of went, oh my God, I have to message her about this. I have to message her because now I'm kind of going in this whole different direction. And so I messaged her, and it was like midnight for her because she was in the central time zone. And she messaged me right back. And I thought, what in the world are you still doing up? I shouldn't even be up. And she said, this is amazing. I just got goosebumps. You need to follow along on this path. And that's what set the ball in motion. And I kind of decided, I want to coach single women. And part of the business coaching, and so I stuck with this business coach because even though she was an interior designer and she was coaching interior designers, it was about so much more than that. It was all about, online businesses and things like that. And one of her big things was content, 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 content. You have to have all this content that you're putting out there. There's free content, there's paid content, and there's all of this. And I thought, okay, where in the world am I going to get all this content? Well, then I realized that I had been jotting down notes for the past couple of years. Every time something popped into my head, that pertained to single life or my single journey or, anything like that, I put a note in my phone. And I went in and I looked at my notes and I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I realized I had the entire outline for a book. And so I thought, there's my content right there. And I've been gathering it all along and I didn't even realize it. And so there was my outline. I did the outline for the book. I sat down and wrote the book. It took me 6 months. And this wasn't constant writing every day in and day out. There's no way to do that. I'm sure some people
Yeah.
can't. There's no way to do that. Some days I couldn't write at all. Some days it was, maybe a few hours or whatever. But 6 months, I wrote the book. It was published last November. And yeah, I'm super proud of it. I think the world needs it. And I, started my coaching business last fall as well. And all of that's been going great. There's such a need for it, and it's such an underserved market. Single women are.
And you are providing such like a beautiful light to attract everyone to that and realize that there is someone who's doing work for this. So how did you go about attracting those clients and finding that? Did they find you more so than you reached out and found them?
They found me more. And, a lot of it was on social media. And prior to this, I was not a social media person. I was not that person posting on Facebook every day. I had an Instagram account for my interior design business, but I didn't really know what to do with it. I would post something every now and again. I just wasn't super into it. But, people started telling me, okay, if you're going to have this online business, you have to be all over social media. Okay. So I started being all over social media, just putting my message out there, in posts every day. Here's a little snippet of something. Here's another little snippet, just putting the message out there. And people started coming to me. And then, of course, all of my, friends and family and everybody know what I'm doing. And so, they're telling people and, whatever else. And people are really excited about the message.
Of course they are, because I feel like society has this thing where you're supposed to be ashamed or unhappy if you don't have, the husband by this time, the partner by this time. And when you are getting those negative messages consistently, well, that just becomes the way your brain works. And so you really work with changing those beliefs. What are some main beliefs that show up when single women are having a hard time accepting where they are in their place without a partner?
Yeah, definitely. The number one thing is there's something wrong with me. And I thought this for years and years and years. There must be something wrong with me because everyone else is finding someone and I'm not. What is it? And you will spend hours and hours and days and weeks of your precious, thought energy trying to figure out what this thing is that's wrong with you. Because if you can figure it out, then you can fix it. And then you'll find someone and then everything will be great. And the plain truth is there's nothing wrong with you, or there's nothing any more wrong with you than there is with anyone else, And so that's the biggest one I think for women to come to terms with is that there really is not anything wrong with them. It just hasn't happened for whatever reason. It hasn't happened, and maybe it's going to happen next year, maybe in 5 years, maybe never, and that's okay. And it's the being okay with that's the tough part.
I kind of go few and far between in relationships personally. I find that I'm getting more and more aware of people's energy. Actually, that's one of the things that now determines whether I can remain seeing someone or not. Is there an
Hmm.
energetic match? Do they have an awareness about themselves and about life? The kind of more spiritual things in life. But it's interesting because I went from, okay, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me, to swinging way to the other side of the pendulum with what's wrong with men? What's wrong with men? What's wrong with men? So
Right.
there are beliefs of, men today are just not able to hold space for a woman who is spiritually awakened, who steps in her own power, who is able to forge her own path. That, it makes a lot of men uncomfortable, and they'd rather have someone who's easier, someone who doesn't challenge them to be more than, or that they've been before, or to allow
me to grow versus just stay by my side and stay small so that I can have you as my companion through all of this. Do you run into that as well? Because I know that that's like the other chirpy side of my brain, because there's the I'm not good enough, and then there's they're not good enough. And I think they're both too extreme and they're both too unhealthy to stay living there, because I think it's just beliefs that I've acquired over time, which may or may not be based on reality, right? So, how would you guide someone who is on that side of the spectrum?
Well, I would have to say that that's not entirely wrong. You know? There are a lot of men who haven't quite reached that. And honestly, on the spiritual side, and, bless you for, recognizing what you want in a partner, because I think it's difficult to find men who are tuned into that spiritual realm, because that's pretty woo woo, for men. Men are pretty black and white, and spirituality is definitely a big gray area. You kind of make it what you want it. Um, and so, yeah, I think it is really tough to find a man who's on your same level spiritually. However, as I have found with everything else, and you kind of alluded to this just now, it is in your thinking and it is in your beliefs. And I don't necessarily think someone would have to necessarily be on the same, wavelength with you spiritually in order for you to have a relationship with that person. They would just have to accept where you are spiritually, and you would have to accept where they are.
I totally hear that. I think it's asking a lot to say, oh, you need to be at the same level of where I've gone to my spirituality. You need to be there too. I don't imagine that that happens all the time. But when I think about the spiritual principles of, like, do unto others as you would have people do to you, basic respect, basic valuing of another human being, seeing someone else as yourself. When you think about a lot of the online dating, I've had stories like this, friends have had stories like this, where you'll have a date set up literally for that night and they unmatch you right before. And you're like, what
Hmm.
just happened here? So I'm a human being. Could you just say, what, I'm actually not interested anymore? So there's been this, like, how do you operate in the world? So your complete value system to me is really important, and not just like, are you a spiritual person? Because you don't have to call it that in order to operate by those principles, just being a good person, right?
Right.
So yes, I guess it's really, it's a lot to say I need to have someone meet me there at that specific level, but there's got to be an awareness. And I do feel partners should help each other grow. There's so much I need to learn, and there's so many things I can grow from, being in a relationship with someone else. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what my point is with this. I'm just kind of doing my own work here right now. So I'm talking to,
Completely
um,
understood. We can have a little mini coaching session
a
right
little
now.
mini coaching is so amazing. But no, I think it's so marvelous to say, because I have gotten a lot better about, it's okay if I'm not always seeing someone, because I do truly value my time with myself, and it is a
Mhm.
wonderful thing. So I guess I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing. Have you seen go ahead, you were about to say something.
Well, that is a wonderful thing when you can get to that point where you value your time with yourself and you value yourself, because I think that's something I wasn't doing. I didn't value myself unless someone else was valuing me. So when I was between relationships, that was a difficult time for me because no one was validating my worth. Or when I got into a bad relationship, obviously that person is not validating your worth, and they're really kind of, destroying your worth, at that point. And yeah, so that was really difficult. And it's recognizing your worth, loving yourself. I mean, I say sometimes I had to fall in love with myself, which sounds really self-help book cliche, but it's the truth. I really did have to fall in love with myself and start treating myself the way I expected somebody else to treat me, the way I would expect a partner to treat me. And so I think that's really important, that you're taking that time, and that you know what you want and you're not settling. And, talking about the whole online dating thing, and boy, we could talk about online dating probably for 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because there's so much material there. But, when someone, you've got a date set up, and they unmatch you, right before it or whatever, good. That's a blessing, because you did not want that person. Someone who's going to do that to you is not your person. And so it's looking at those things not as rejections, but as thank God. I didn't waste my time going out with this person. And I think, it really is in your thinking. And that's why the whole first half of my book is about changing your thoughts, because our thinking is what gets us into these, curled up in a ball in the corner. It's not anything that's actually happening. It's what we think about what's happening. And so it's really super important to get your thinking right. And then once you get your thinking right and you're connecting with the universe on that higher level, things are going to start to happen for you. The happiness is going to start to happen.
Talk me through the book. Let's go through it and break down what it is that you share and how you do it. What is the magical way that you, through your Leslie magic, are able to share this information?
Well, basically, I share my journey, and I don't go through the book saying, and then I did this and then I did that, but I basically share the journey that I went through, not realizing at the time that I was going through this journey. And then afterwards looking back and going, oh, here are all the things I did that got me from point A to point B. And the biggest one was changing the thinking, like I said, and that's why the whole first half of the book is about that. But also the realizing about the, connecting with the universe and the spirituality side of that. I actually put that, really early in the book. And of course I say, okay, woo woo alert. I'm going into something that's kind of woo. It's going to be this way for some people. But it really is the truth. Having that spiritual awakening, realizing that what you're putting out there is what you're getting back, and that you need to align yourself with the universe is really important. And you align yourself with the universe through your thinking. And then the universe brings that back to you, and that's what influences your actions. And so that's in the very beginning. Then I get into all of the thinking, all of the negative thoughts that we're thinking and how to not think those thoughts anymore and to think more positive ones. And then after we get through all the thinking, the second half of the book is about the doing, and it's about the taking action. Because one thing I realize, all the self-development books that I've read, it's all about, positive thinking, and I think, okay, so all I have to do is think positively and then everything will be great, and it doesn't work that way. I mean,
Oh, it's
yes,
so simple though. Of course, that's all you
yeah,
do.
right. I just think if I just lay in bed and think I'm a size 2, I'm a size 2, I'm a size 2, and I do that for a whole month, then the next day I'm going to wake up and be a size 2. Yeah, it doesn't
Voila.
work that way.
Yeah.
It would be nice if that happened, but it doesn't work that way. So you do have to get that thinking in line, but by getting that thinking in line, that's when your actions are going to start to fall in line. And it's almost like you don't even necessarily have to think, I need to take this action in order for this to happen. You just kind of will start taking those actions. And that's where I think the universe really comes into play, is that your actions start getting directed by the thoughts that you've created. And so the whole second half of the book is about taking those actions and determining what those actions are.
This is a handbook I think a lot of people should have by their side. And I'm really curious, this will inspire a lot of people. It already has. What inspires you? Who do you love to read? Who kind of assisted you on your journey as you were becoming this fuller expression of yourself?
My very first teacher, and I like to call them teachers, was Dr. Wayne Dyer, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. Love, love, love Wayne Dyer. What an incredible man. And I remember it was, gosh, probably 15 years ago now, watching a PBS special of his, because he was all over PBS. And it was right after he had written his book, The Power of Intention. And I was visiting my best friend who lives in Phoenix. And why we decided to spend our, one weekend a year really that we see each other, or one weekend down there, watching PBS is beyond me. But we did. She's like, oh, my mom told me about this and we got to watch it. Okay. So we watched it and we both were completely enthralled. We immediately, as soon as it was over, drove to the bookstore to buy his book. They were sold out. We drove to another one. They were sold out. Finally, the third bookstore, we found it. And of course, I think this was before Amazon, and online ordering. So we had to go to the bookstore to get this. Bought the book, read it cover to cover, loved it. And I think that book really set me on my journey to learning about all of these other things that, on a daily basis, you don't really get introduced to. And so definitely Wayne Dyer. Jack Canfield is another good one. And of course, he's kind of on that Wayne Dyer wavelength. I would say those two are the biggest. And then if we're talking a little bit more grounded, no, what's the word I want to use? I like a little bit more kind of everyday and kind of like your best buddy, Jen Sincero.
Oh,
And
she's fun. Yeah.
yeah, she's super fun. And of course, she's not super, super spiritual, but you kind of get that from Wayne, and then Jack's kind of in the middle, and then there's Jen. But I think she takes a practical approach to things, but she's still got that hint of spirituality. She gets it. She gets it that you have to be aligned. And so, yeah, those are really the people that I've been reading for a long time or been reading lately.
It's super well rounded. I think they all have so much value to bring. And it's amazing how things just find you at the right time. I
Mhm.
find that, if you're open to it, it's just going to drop in your lap, or someone will mention it, and then someone else will mention it, and then a third person will mention it. And you're like, maybe I should get that book.
Yep,
Which leads you down the
absolutely.
rabbit hole to all of the other ones. Well, I feel like your book is going to be that for somebody. What is the best way for people to learn more about your book, about your work? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so definitely my website, which is Leslie Kaz, LesliekAZ.com. And you can actually get the book that way too. If you click on book, it'll take you through to Amazon and you can purchase the book, or you can go directly to Amazon. The title of the book is Single Girl Bliss: How to Stop Feeling Alone and Start Feeling Alive. I also do coaching, and there's a coaching tab on my website. And it's interesting that you're just talking about, and then someone mentions, and then someone does this, because recently, so right now, I do one-on-one coaching. And I've been thinking, I'd like to have, like a membership. I'd like to have a group coaching program. No sooner did I start thinking about this than I get this email saying, "Hey, I'm doing a webinar on, how to do a group coaching
Stu
program."
McLaren. Was it Stu
Yeah,
McLaren?
Stu, yeah,
I'm looking at it too. Yep, I'm on that train too, girl.
yep, yep,
It's
that's
great.
great. That
It's at the
pops into
right
my
time.
inbox. Yeah, absolutely the right time. I got something from someone else. Well, I guess Amy Porterfield was how I even got to Stu. So here's Amy, and she's doing a webinar, and I didn't even realize it was with Stu. She's doing a webinar about that. And then here comes Stu or a podcast episode, sorry. Then here comes Stu with his webinar, and I'm like, okay, something's trying to tell me, the universe is trying to tell me that yes, I need to do this and I need to do it now. And so, yeah, so I'm starting a group coaching program. And for the inaugural members, it's going to be very, very inexpensive because we're kind of going to be building this thing together, and I'll have some instruction, and then obviously we'll have some coaching calls as well. So if anybody wants to get in on that, since I haven't actually created it, I'm going to be doing it this week. If they just want to send me an email, it's Leslie@lesliekaz.com, and just let me know you're interested in group coaching. Again, it's going to be, really inexpensive for the founding members, and I'm super excited, to get this core group together and start going on this. And then aside from that, oh, I've got a freebie as well. I have all these things. I have a freebie as well, which is on my website. It's called it's the How to Be Happy Alone Roadmap. And it's a 3-day. You download the first part, and then the second and third days, you get an email with the second and third parts. And it kind of takes you through what I talk about in my book, where you work on your thinking, and then you work on who you are, and then you work on an action plan for the future, and kind of takes you through a little mini version of that. So that's really valuable. And then of course I am on Instagram, so that's Leslie Kaz _single girl bliss, and Facebook is Leslie Kaz .single girl bliss. And then Pinterest is Leslie Kaz -single girl bliss. So basically, if you put Leslie Kaz into any of those searches and then you just look for single girl bliss, you'll find me.
They're
But
gonna find you. Yeah.
yep, I'm all over the place out there. So I'd love to have everybody.
It's so great. Well, I know you're enjoying your time alone, but I have really enjoyed this time together.
I have as well.
Thank you for sharing it, and truly, it's a wonderful way that you're showing up in the world, and people are benefiting from it. And that's the way to do it, right? Something you love, something that's meaningful to you, that also makes a big impact on others. So keep doing what you're doing, Leslie.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. When I get comments, from someone saying this helped me so much, or I never would have thought of this, thank you so much, I almost burst into tears. That's the best part of it for me, is that I got through to somebody and I helped them, because that's really what I'm here for.
That's what you're here for. And you're here to enjoy and love your life. And by doing that, you're sharing your gifts in the best way that you were brought here to do. And everybody benefits. I love it.
I love it too. Thank you so much for the wonderful compliments.
And thank you for being on Lighthouse Conversations.
Thank you too, Chelly. It was great.
Thank you for listening to Lighthouse Conversations. If this show resonates with you, it would mean so much to have you rate, review, and share. Don't forget to follow us at chellycanales.com and on social media.